Eddie, what a playing career. I mean, see when you look at players now and the money that's in the game, guys earning 6 figures a week with nowhere near the ability you had. Is there any envy? Is there any kind of bitterness?
Not at all. I mean, I just was fortunate enough to play the game. I mean, when I come down here in 1963 when I was 15, it was just a pleasure to play. And the thing about it is, you know, like, through my career here, you know, played at a top level, played with great players, some of the greatest players that I've ever played the game. And then obviously going on to coach a club, manage a club. I'm still at the club as an ambassador for the club. It's just been a great life, you know, like, I had no regrets. As soon as I walked through the door here in 1963, I've never had one regret about coming to the club.
You went to Eintracht Frankfurt, Real Madrid, European Cup final at Hampden. Were you 13, 14 then, Eddie?
I was young then, yeah.
You were young then?
Yeah, younger than that.
What impression did that leave in you? Can you still remember all the players?
I can remember the forward line: Canario, Del Sol, Di Stefano, Puskas and Hento. The players that impressed you most were obviously Alfredo, Di Stefano and Puskas. I mean, they were just unbelievable players. But you know, I ended up playing against Canario for Leeds, European game. But when you actually looked at that team, you know, like, I think, you know, it's funny when you're growing up, you look at that team and they were a great team. But when I was growing up, Neil, every Scottish boy, wanted to be Dennis Law.
And why not?
Why not?
And why not? Yeah.
You know, because Dennis come down to England, you know what he'd done in the game, and you know, his attitude towards the game, his flamboyance and his brilliance, you know. I mean, like, when you look at the Manchester United players at that time, you know, you've got Dennis and you've got George Best and Bobby Charlton. Mm-hmm. Bobby's the best British player I've seen.
That's an accolade.
Yeah, he's the best British player I've seen. He was some player.
I mean, you were a fabulous winger, essentially left-footed, decent with your right, the tricks, dazzling. Who taught you that?
Yeah, but the funny thing about that was, I mean, I was never a left winger. I was a midfield player. When I played with the Glasgow schoolboys when I was a kid, and you know, when I was 13, and played with the Scottish schoolboys when I was 15. I played left half. I was, you know, number 6 in my back, you know, and that was it. And you know, quite a funny story. The last schoolboy international game I played, I was picked to play, and it was against, I was playing Northern Ireland at Ibrox, and I'd signed for Leeds before I'd left school, which was illegal. And Don told me he'd put it in a drawer and wouldn't register me. But he registered me before the last schoolboy game because he panicked. And so I gets to the hotel in Glasgow, and on the Friday night, Don come up to the house, and my mum says to Don, she calls me Edwin, if Edwin doesn't play tomorrow, he's not going to Leeds. And Don says to her, don't worry, he'll play. I'm guaranteed he'll play. So I get to the hotel in Glasgow and meet the Scottish schoolboy team before the game. And I get called into a room with all the selectors. And they're there, and it says, Gray, is it true that you've signed for Leeds United? I says, yes. They says to me, you know the consequences? I says, yes. So what happened, I get to Ibrox, and I get into the dressing room, and I played number 6 in the days, left half. So I'm thinking I'm not playing. So I'm starting an hour before the game, number 6 is there. Half an hour before the game, number 6 is still there. 15 minutes before the game, nobody says anything. I went in, put the shirt on and went out and played. Don says to me, my mum, I told you you'd played, didn't I? No, I don't know if he crossed palms with him, but you know, I did. And then he says to my mum, he says, I'll tell you something else, this isn't a Friday. He's leaving school on Monday morning after the game. Mum says, I can't leave school. He doesn't leave school to June. This is only at beginning of May, the last schoolboy game. He says he's leaving school on Monday morning, have his bags packed. Comes up to the house at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, says to me, where's your school? So I take him down to the Lane St Margaret's in Cannon Park. Where's your headmaster's office? So I take him up to the headmaster's office. He says, wait out here. Literally a minute later, the headmaster comes out, shakes my hand and says, all the best in your new career, Gray. And I went straight down to Leeds End. Never sat in the exams or anything.
Never looked back.
No, that's true. That's what he did, you know. So I don't know how he done it. but Don was just a road operator.
Almost 600 games later.
Yeah.
69 goals.
Yeah.
League.
Yeah.
FA Cup, League Cup.
Yeah.
2 Fair Cities Cups, Charity Shield.
Yeah.
Not bad.
It's good. Yeah,
Not
it's
bad.
good. But the only thing about that is, what I've got to say, I mean, I played with great players.
Well, I was going to ask you about that Leeds United team. I mean, Billy Bremner.
Yeah.
Billy
was a great player.
I mean,
Giles was some player.
aye.
He's the best player I played with, Giles. Giles was a genius. Not only for the point of view of his technical ability, but his ability to read the game and sort out where we could hurt teams right away. 5 minutes after the game started, they'd be telling us where we can hurt teams and where they could hurt us.
But Johnny Giles could also look after himself, couldn't he?
Oh, John, yeah, so could Billy.
well.
Yeah, John was very shrewd. I still speak to John. He lives in the Midlands because he went to, when he went to manage West Brom. I went down a night for him. They had a tribute night to John not that long ago at West Brom, so I went down and I still speak to him. I would say that all the players I've ever played with, Giles was the best player.
That's a hell of an accolade as well.
And I played with great players.
See, when you're in that Leeds United dressing room, tell me, see when you're looking around at the iconic names, Jack Charlton, Norman Hunter, Giles.
Well, that's what I was just going to say to you. When I was sitting in the dressing room before the game,
Alan Clark,
and I was looking around the dressing room, I used to think to myself, this is true, no way we can get beat today.
I can imagine.
And it was a great feeling to have that.
I can imagine.
Because there's so many great players. I mean, like every player that was sitting in the dressing room was an international player. They all played for their countries. And you mentioned a few there, but they were all great players, Like, there's a player that it doesn't get a lot of mentions, but he was one of the greatest players ever, Paul Madeley. Paul played there 700 games for our club. Yeah. He played everywhere.
But he was overshadowed.
Yeah, he played right back, centre back, and he was just a sort of a unsung hero. But to me, he was one of the great players, Madeley.
How did you feel when the likes of Brian Clough, particularly, and others would dismiss Leeds as a hardman team, cloggers, won football the wrong way? They would say.
No, it was stupid. I mean, it was just jealousy. I mean, we could outplay any team. I mean, I remember a couple of games we had here in 2 weeks. We beat Southampton 7, and beat Man United 5. Yeah. A Man U team with the top players. The Holy Trinity. Yeah, no. There's a great photo of Peter and I in that game. We're standing at the corner flag here, just down here, and we're looking at each other as if to say, "This is so easy." It's a great photo. I've got it at my house. I mean, see, when we look at the pitch here, Eddie, it's phenomenal for this stage of the season. Yeah. But when I think back to the pitches that you played in, it would be mud all the way across the pitch. It'd be just a sort of the four corners of the pitch would be grass in, or the middle of the pitch would be more. The worst ground to play in a lot then was the old baseball ground at Derby County. Oh, that was just like a mud heap. But that's what you had to cope with then. It was the same for all the players. Aye. So you put up with it. I mean, but when you played in grass, it felt as if it was tremendous. I look at the players of your era, phenomenal players, obviously, Best, Law, Charlton, Franny Lee, Nicky Summerby, Frank Worthington. Yeah. But on the other side of it, Eddie, I think there's some of the hard men there. Oh, yeah. Ron Chopper Harris immediately comes to mind. You obviously had Norman Hunter. Better player than he was given credit for. Norman was a great player. Norman was a great footballer, yeah. But did these guys, these hatchet men, did they ever terrorise you, or did you just want to terrorise them? Yeah, they never frightened me in any way before you're gonna, they would try and kick you, you know that. But football's always been like that. When I started playing, you're not like going to get the ball, and these players aren't going to let you just drift by them without putting a physical challenge in. So you accept that. You must have suffered some brutal tackles. Oh, you get some bad tackles, yeah, but it was part of the game. I mean, some of the challenges when I played, you wouldn't get away with now, with the VAR and the cameras everywhere. But see, what I think's even, I mean, extraordinary career, Eddie, but you never were booked, were you? No, I never get booked, no. How the hell did you manage to get through a career in these pitches? The attention you would have got without retaliating. Without retaliating. Yeah, it just wasn't in my nature. Really? Yeah. That's extraordinary. Yeah, I know. I never thought. I had the mentality, it's not going to do any good if you retaliate. The best way for me to retaliate would get the ball and get by him again. Be honest. Did you have a wee kick off the ball yourself now and again? Well, you had a couple of challenges, but nothing that would merit getting sent off or anything like that.
Aye.
I mean, I played in a team that if clubs wanted a physical battle, we could more than match them. If they wanted to play pure football, we could do that as well.
Yeah. Billy Bremner. I mean,
Billy was a great player.
Give me some of your favourite memories of Billy.
Billy. Well, one favourite memory is we used to go for lunch every day across to Sheila's Cafe. And we used to toss up for lunch. Scottish boy lost, he'd have a cup of tea. English boy lost, 3-course lunch. 2 Kit Kats and 2 Kit Kats to take in for the kids. Billy was a character. But see, that was the one thing that Don Revie did that I think was genius. Making Billy captain. You know, because he wouldn't have said Billy was the ideal captain material.
In what sense?
For the point of view how he was, you know, it was outlandish at times. He wouldn't have been, say, like a Bobby Moore type, you know, like captain, like that type of captain. Billy probably led the example. I mean, he's one of the greatest players that's ever played the game.
But I was going to say, would it be harsh not to call him a model pro, if you know what I mean? That you'd want him always in your team, but in terms of off the park, would you?
No, you'd want Billy in your team all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, but you know, you would say there would be more model pros in our team than Billy.
Aye,
you know.
Aye.
You know, I think that was Billy's nature.
And I don't mean that in any way disparaging. Just how he maybe lived his life away from it.
Yeah, because that's what made Billy.
But put him in a picture was phenomenal.
Yeah, Billy was a character.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was a touch of a genius of Don, making Billy captain.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the pitch, Billy would lead by example.
Yeah.
Whether Giles would be the general, you know, in the midfield, and he would dictate how we would play.
You would follow Billy anywhere.
Yeah.
But he would lead you. Yeah. I mean, a team full of formidable characters, Eddie. I mean,
well, international players. I mean, that was the thing, and it probably helped the team in a way. I mean, for 9-10 years. You know, everybody you're playing with is an international player. So there's no jealousy within the squad. Oh, he's playing international football, I'm not playing international football. I mean, every international break, there's nobody at the club. The players are away playing international games, you know. And I think that helped as well. I mean, the players, they all knew that they were playing with people at as much or the same amount of talent that they had. They were all playing for their countries. And there was no jealousy within the squad because we knew we were all playing with top players.
Who were your, back in the 60s and the kind of 70s, who were your favourite Celtic players? I'm guessing Jinky Johnson.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby Murdoch.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, growing up, I was a huge fan of Willie Fernie. Yeah. I used to like Willie's style of play and how he got the ball and dribbling by people. I used to like Willie Fernie.
So, European Cup semi-final, Leeds United Celtic.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Both, I mean, obviously, from a team point of view, the results didn't go your way.
No,
Celtic won home and away.
Yeah.
But for the whole emotional experience for you?
Oh, well, it was.
What Celtic made you as well.
It was, when you actually think of the game at Hampden, the second game, Celtic, 137,000 at the game.
It's staggering.
There's about 2,000 Leeds supporters. I think they got Celtic supporters around the world for that game, It was just amazing. For me it was, I mean, the funny thing about that game is like, we were in the dressing room at Hampden and Big Jack and Norman, the experienced boys, they're sitting there and the roof is vibrating, with the noise.
Incredible.
With the noise.
Incredible.
So they were looking at each other just to say, what's this,
Aye.
That's probably the best atmosphere I've ever played under. I don't think there'll ever have been a game where the atmosphere's better. And basically it was all one-sided.
But then Billy scores. Great goal.
Yeah.
Was that the quietest you'd ever heard?
Yeah, it was quietest. He just went silent. It was a great goal, Billy's. But Celtic come back into the game, obviously, and win the game, probably deservedly win the game. But as games of football, there were two classic games. There were two great games, two of the greatest games ever. And there was always that confrontation, Scotland against England, you know, and it was. The top team in Scotland, top team in England, Celtic come out on top. But, you know, we played at Celtic Park one day and we beat them in a friendly. I think there was about 70,000 there that day, the friendly game, you know. So, yeah, they're great memories. Yeah, obviously, you're disappointed you don't win the game. But what you've got to remember then, you know, Celtic, it was more a level playing field then.
Yeah.
You know, like Celtic could keep their players and kept the top of the top players. Well,
yeah.
I mean, you imagine now, you know, when Jimmy Johnson spent all his career at Celtic Park in the open era, you know, like when he could move to, you know, the Premier League, and it's changed football like that.
The thing is, guys like, you know, players like Jimmy Johnson, the players, yourself, Johnny Giles, see when you look at transfer market valuations, what values would they have now in the current? I mean, when you look at what some players are going for now, Eddie, how would you value them?
Oh, you know, Jimmy Johnson, you just couldn't put a price on him, and Giles was just a genius. I mean, you know, these players would be priced out of the market, I think. You know. So I mean, it was an era where, you know, like I look at the Celtic players that played around about that time. You know, the two centre backs, Billy and John Clark. You know, and big Tommy Gemmell. You know, Tommy was a top player. You know. Then you're looking at Bobby in the middle of the park, and Bertie could play, and Bertie could look after himself. yeah. You know, you talk about a hard man, and you know, players that I played with, I don't think they'd end to get the better of Bertie.
See, when you reflect, Eddie, do you feel privileged that you played in the era that you did with those kinds of players and those kinds of teams and occasions?
I've no regrets about my career at all. I mean, I came to Leeds when I was 15, 1963. I got in the team when I was 17, and from then on, all the way through, you know, played with great players. You know, and it was just a pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure to still be involved in the club and seeing them back in the big league now.
A player, coach, twice a manager, you're now ambassador. It's fantastic. And it's great to see the club give you such respect.
Yeah, I would never have imagined. I'd never have imagined when I came here as a 15-year-old boy, you know, how things would have worked out. I thought things would work out well, because when I came here, I only came here because of one man, and I had great faith in him, Don Revie. You know, I just thought that he was such a powerful character. His awareness, his knowledge of the game, his history in the game. I think it was only going to go one way here with Don.
I wonder if, I mean, you say you had no regrets, only 12 Scotland caps.
Yeah.
That I think people will be amazed about.
Yeah.
Back then Scotland didn't play as many games as they do now, but nevertheless, it seems a paltry amount.
Yeah, it does.
But
I couldn't play 2 games a week then. I got a bad thigh injury when I was 15.
Aye.
And that hindered my career. I mean, if I wouldn't have had the thigh injury that I had, and it troubled me all the way through my career, if I was a young kid, I would have played over 1,000 games for the team, you know, because I played for a long time. And I played my last game when I was 37, nearly 38, and I got in the team when I was 17. So I've played a lot more games if it wouldn't have been for my thigh injury. I've got to say, I'd have been a lot better player if I wouldn't have my thigh injury, you know.
You still did all right, Eddie?
I did all right, but I would have been a better player. That's one regret I got this thigh injury, because I don't think I had the opportunity to really play that I consider with my best football. Although it was okay, you know. For me, inside me, I know I would have been a better player.
Well, Eddie, I still regard you as a proper football legend, and it's been wonderful discussing your career.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time you've given us.
Thank you.
Wish you the best.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Eddie.
Thank you.